Alright, boys. A lot's been happening, both in terms of quests and in terms of levels. I unlocked the ability to craft amulets of glory, which is massive, both in terms of a gear upgrade and transportation. And through doing so, we gained access to Fossil Island, which means birdhouse runs, ultra compost, giant seaweed, and lots more. So this came about because you need 80 crafting to make an amulet of glory, but you can boost +4 with a mushroom pie. One of the ingredients for mushroom pie is the Suliaset mushroom caps, which only grow on Fossil Island. So essentially, you need to get access to the island before you can bake the pie to get the boost to craft the amulet to mount in the house. And access to the island requires the completion of the Bon Voyage quest, which also has a few prerequisites. So that's what we did first. Uh, first I completed the dig site quest, which is a fairly simple one. You need to answer the theory questions and get your white card before you're allowed to pick up tools and play at archaeology. You just run around and copy all the other students' answers, just like back at university. And then once you pass the theory test, you go on to create custom homemade explosives to blow up the crypt of an ancient demigod, just like back at university. And then you can finish up the quest for some nice herblore and thieving XP. The other prerequisite for Bon Voyage is 100 good boy points with the museum, or kudos. You can earn museum kudos in a few different ways. Cleaning finds at the work tables in the back of the museum gets you a maximum of 50 points. And it's also how you unlock the ability to craft the dig site pendant, which is an enchanted ruby necklace that can teleport you to Fossil Island, which, as an aside, you can also mount in your player-owned house by trading in 250 cut rubies to the museum curator. There's also the natural history quiz, which we did way back at the start of the account in one of the earlier episodes to kickstart our Slayer and Hunter XP. You can assemble the fossil exhibits, but that's not really relevant here because you can only access the fossil exhibits once you can access Fossil Island. So the wiki says there's something called relics from Baronite chunks, whatever the fuck that is. And finally, there's a few select quests which you can get kudos for completing and then reporting the outcome of what you've learned from the quest to one of the historians. Luckily, I'd already done a couple of these, including Merlin's tree, including the Grand Tree and Merlin's Crystal. Cleaning the finds, plus the quiz, plus the quest I had done put me just short. So I quickly knocked out Haziel Cult, which is one of the shortest quests in the game, just to make up the difference. Haziel Cult involves investigating an underground sewer cult to help some rich prick get his stolen armor back. You can side with the cult if you choose to do so, but it's slightly quicker to just kill the leader. And completion of that quest gives you 1 quest point, a bit more thieving XP, 2k cash money, and 5 museum kudos. After that, we had the requirements to start the Bon Voyage quest, which is also reasonably straightforward. First, you help 2 old guys get wood by picking up the log order from the woodcutting guild. Then you drug an unwilling sea captain and his cabin boy to get them over their fear of curses. And then you play a simple mini game which acts as a bit of a proxy for sailing a ship, in which you have to manage wind level and direction and navigate. But after you land, you can forget all that and just head straight on over to those juicy Suliaset mushrooms to bake that pie. Alright, now there's a few different ways to cut the Suliaceps. There's the correct way, and then there's my way. you cut these gigantic tree-like stalks, and then the active one that you can cut changes between a few different locations across the swamp. And there's a big old tar monster sitting in that swamp that smacks you for 9s through prayer. And you're meant to distract it with some elaborate mechanism involving the hoop snakes. But I just suck it up and take the damage. Tanking 9s is the price you have to pay for setting foot in the swamp. I do have 9k noted sharks, so, got to do something with that. Oh, and he poisons you, which is also a bit of a bitch. Soleostep cutting is supposed to be some of the best wood cutting XP in the game, for those who are into that sort of thing. Personally, I can't imagine wanting to make one of the most AFK skills more click intensive, but to each their own. So, after some suffering, we got the mushroom, baked our pie. We've been hoarding crystal keys for God knows how long, so we already had all the dragon stones we need. And just like that, 2 glories. 1 for me, 1 for the house. And look, I really can't overstate how good this upgrade is. Not only is it a huge increase in stats right across the board, but having it mounted in the player-owned house in the quest hall means unlimited amounts of 4 highly useful teleports. It's fucking huge. One of the other developments of note is that we finally attended SawCon, and by that I mean we completed the Eyes of Glowfree quest to get the Crystal Saw, which, as you may recall from the previous episode, gives a +3 construction boost that stacks with the boost from the T, effectively unlocking a +6 construction boost. And we really need this boost because construction is A, cripplingly expensive, and B, until I complete the Song of the Elves questline and unlock access to Prifddinas, I'm still using oak planks for the construction contracts. Just because it isn't a good way to quickly access any of the higher tiers of logs and make them into planks until we have access to Prif. We did the Eyes of Glowfree, which involves looking at these pretty colourful shapes and counting their edges. Machine is trashed and you've got to fix it. And it's a fun kind of brain teaser. All the blocks have different numeric values based on the colour and the number of size of the shape. And you need to find the best combination to hit the total numeric value using different combinations of shapes. And then after you fix the machine, Morpheus gives you the red pill. The illusion is lifted. And all of these fluffy pet things around the gnome stronghold area are actually these little black demon things harvesting your personal data and sharing it with unauthorized third parties. So you go around executing all of them, and then the completion of the quest gives you the crystal seed, which can be turned into the saw through the singing bowl to get the aforementioned boost. And then the other quest done in preparation for the construction grind was Enlightened Journey. And this quest would be okay, except for the fact that it's on Entrana. And you need to start all new routes for balloon transportation from Entrana. Balloon transport is part of the long and probably ultimately futile effort to add value to the most useless skill in the game. If you have a high enough fire making level, you can use different logs to travel balloon routes as another form of transportation around the map. But the reason we want it is there's a balloon right next to the sawmill, and there's also one right next to Castle Wars. And we can easily get infinite teleports to Castle Wars after we construct the basic jewelry box, which has unlimited rings of dueling. So in a roundabout sort of way, it's a teleport to a sawmill, since we can get to Castle Wars and then fly to the Varrock sawmill, and that'll be incredibly useful when we've got to make thousands and thousands of planks. But to get to that point, we need to complete this cunt of a quest. Die deliberately to drop all our items and head over to Intrana. And it's also irritating for a couple of other reasons. You can't just smash the quest out when you decide to do it. You need to wait for a willow tree to grow and trim the branches, which takes around 8 hours is the tree cycle. And then the balloon mini game itself is frustrating, because if you make a misclick and collide with any of the in-air objects, the game goes all Malaysian Airlines and just dumps you in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of us fuck nowhere, and you have to completely start over. Aside from those factors, it's also a fairly simple quest, apart from the flight minigame and the complications inherent from a UIM visiting Intrana. It's essentially just a fetch quest where you get all of the balloon construction material for the monk. I didn't know about this. It's probably old news now. I have no idea when they put it in the game. But I guess if you're playing a normie account, there's no real reason you'd sit up and take notice. They have these storage crate next to balloons, so you can stockpile logs ahead of time, which is really useful because a balloon flight takes... you have to have a log to consume, and the different locations require a different type of log. So before they had this storage box, you need to always have, one oak log or one willow log in your inventory. But now you can just, I think it stores up to 99 of each log type, and you can just store them in mass. So that's another good quality of life change. So between unlocking the plank sack, getting the balloon routes, we were just zooming through construction levels, even just with the oak contracts. We hit 78, and then between the T and the saw, we were able to stretch to 84 to construct the mahogany treasure chest and free up some much needed space in the looting bag, depositing all of those hard clue uniques. But the real star of the show is the fancy jewelry box, the construction of which unlocks all of these juicy teleports from the combat bracelet and the skills necklace, as well as freeing up 10 more spaces in the looting bag using all of the crystal keys. And I was very, very excited to get to 80 and boost to 86, but just like Icarus, who flew a bit too close to the sun, hubris comes just before the fall. So yeah, it has to be charged to build the box. So see you in the next episode where we speedrun like 10 quests.